So I think we're all just going to have to accept that there's a chance Zach Edey destroys your team when you play him.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, Nate Dickinson here. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Big Ten. Coming up on today's show, pretty simple format. Big weekend in Big Ten basketball means that we've got a lot to go over, and we're going to start off with the big day from Zach Edey Sunday. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but our show today is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Nate Dickinson, and you're listening into Locked On Big Ten. Be sure to follow the show wherever it is you get your podcasts, on YouTube and on Twitter. The handle is at Locked On Big Ten. 10 when you're typing it out at the end there, not TEN. All right, let's dive right in. Zach Edey yesterday, incredible. 38 points for the Purdue Boilermakers in the win, and absolutely destroying with 13 rebounds as well. A 77-61 final against Tom Izzo's Michigan State Spartans. This game was a blowout. Purdue led about 15 for most of the second half. There was a point where Michigan State brought it back in within single digits, but really for most of the time that this game was being played, there was not any sort of shot that Michigan State was going to win it. And it was, of course, because of what Zach Edey did and what they did for the second straight time against these Spartans. His two best games have both been against Michigan State over the last few weeks. 38-13 here on Sunday, 32-17 last time that he played Michigan State. In the little ESPN recap that they write alongside all their little scores and stats and stuff, they said overwhelming, and I think that's about spot on. Zach Edey was overwhelming in this game. Izzo said it after. He just, at some point, you don't blame it on the players. You have to blame the coaching. He couldn't stop him. And I don't know if I even blame the coaching for that. Nobody can stop him right now. He is a guy who you can't say enough about the growth that he's had as a player. From going from someone who was just a big guy to being a national player of the year. I mean, he's super talented now. And he's going to just have these nights where he's going to put up 30 plus. And there's not that many college basketball players you can say that about. Even fewer of them. And honestly, Edey's one of one when it comes to the size and the skill combination that he has. It's getting to a point where it's becoming kind of remarkable. And you have to start thinking about him as a pro player too, or at least what he can bring to that level, even though he is like the opposite of what the current NBA game is trending toward when it looks for college recruits. He's incredible. He is going to be able to lead this Purdue team to wins that it quite frankly maybe shouldn't have, but Purdue should have had this one because it is an elite team. Michigan State didn't shoot the ball poorly. In this game, it ended up shooting 50% from three, 48% from the field, but the other stats, Purdue just dominated it. 11 more rebounds for the Boilermakers. The Purdue team turned the ball over 5 less times, also committed 5 less personal fouls. It allowed Purdue to take 10 more shots from the field, which allowed them to easily blow out when you also add in the fact that Purdue's just better, this Spartans team. It's a team that has that kind of ability, an ability to take you on a night where you're shooting well and just realize that even if you are shooting well, you have to do everything else good too, because Purdue is a team that's going to be able to beat you in whatever way you let it. If you're not rebounding the ball well like Michigan State didn't, Purdue's going to take advantage. If you're committing 5 more turnovers and 5 more personal fouls the way that Michigan State did, Purdue's going to take advantage. And that's the way that a team that shot pretty well in this game had no shot to win it at any point. That's the most impressive part of it, is not the fact that the final score was 77-61, but the fact that while Michigan State was still having a pretty decent shooting game, it had absolutely at no point any real expectations in the second half that it was going to win it. That's what's kind of scary about this Purdue team, is that it's going to be consistently good and consistently able to pressure you and beat you when you make the mistakes. It has all the signs of a pure elite college basketball team and a real contender, which I'm not making news on. This team's been number one for a little while now, but it's doing the things in games like this that make you say, oh, this team is one that's not going to just get beat at any point this season. You're going to have to beat it yourself. They will not beat themselves. Purdue has everything right now, we'll say. At least everything it needs to win the national title. And it had itself a game here where it's pretty unique for a team that shoots that well from the field of Michigan State to never, at no point, go on any sort of run that pulls them within like 5 points. Purdue kept them right where they wanted them the whole game and said, you know what, if you're going to shoot, fine, we're going to beat you in every other game aspect of the game of basketball. The other game I wanted to talk off the bat on the show was Indiana. Is that team ready to take over as the second best team in the conference? Well, Rutgers lost. We're going to get to that later. But Indiana, for the 5th straight time, picked up a win in the conference, and an impressive win at that. The finals, I actually don't have the final score in front of me, but it was a 15-point win. Jalen Hood-Schifino with 24 points, Trace Jackson-Davis 18 and 10 rebounds with 6 assists and 2 blocks too. He's continuing to be a stat sheet stuffer as of late, doing more than just scoring the basketball and rebounding like he normally does. He's been all over the field, all over the court, and he's been the All-American that he was at the start of this season. It's taken a little bit of time for him and Indiana to really get into sync, but it seems like it's here to stay now, which is really, really exciting, because I was really, really ready for this Indiana team to be good. And once Purdue got good, I was really, really ready for Indiana-Purdue to become a game that's really, really important again. It's getting there. Indiana's climbing its way back, and I'm interested to see. We don't have another full 68-team bracket from Joe Lunardi in the last couple of days. But with what Indiana's been doing, they're going to play their way up into a top 4 seed, if not higher. And I'm really excited about what's happening in Bloomington right now, because that team is looking good, and the people that you want to see stepping up are stepping up. Jalen Hood-Schifino, 24 points, as I said in this one, had himself 6 threes. Malik Renaud got himself 8 rebounds, 15 points too. I list the rebounds first because the rebounds may be most important. Trace Jackson-Davis cannot be the only guy that's getting a lot of rebounds on this team if there's no big rebounding presence out there on its own. It's Malik Renaud rebounding really important for him to get in there and get. 5 in a row, back up for a tie for 3rd in the Big Ten. I'm really excited for what happens when Indiana plays Rutgers, actually. Rutgers won by 15 back in December when those two teams played early in the season. Indiana's a different team now. That game's going to be on February 7th, and it's going to be a lot of fun. That's a look at the first couple of games here from the weekend that I wanted to take a quick glance at. After the break, we're going to get into everything that's going on elsewhere. We had Iowa beating Rutgers by double digits at home. Penn State blows out Michigan. Maryland blows out Nebraska. People who took care of business and did not over the weekend, coming up here on Locked On at Big Ten. The NFL playoffs are here, and we're really excited about our new sports betting partner at Locked On, because they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers also get a nice advantage here with our Locked On partnership. If you bet $5, you can get $150 in free bets guaranteed, just for getting into the system at FanDuel. You sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get the bonus. FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all the favorite bets that you could want: money lines, point spreads, props. If you're a sports bettor, you know what I'm talking about. You bet on all the latest Big Ten games, and if you, of course, hear a line on the show, it's coming from FanDuel. FanDuel, again, the #1 sports book in America, so you know that you're getting some serious people who are going to get the job done right if you're getting your sports betting in. And if you've been a sports bettor for a while, you know that's not always an easy thing to find too. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get the bonus. A $5 bet gets you $150 in free bets over at FanDuel. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also, once you're done here over at our show today, Locked On is heading to the Senior Bowl. Get inside analysis from the hosts that covered the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards those players will be climbing, all in one location. You can do it by subscribing to Locked On NFL Draft. Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows from the Senior Bowl starting Tuesday and then Wednesday and Thursday too at 9 p.m. Eastern. Live shows from the Senior Bowl. It was a whole lot of fun last time. We've got a bunch of our hosts out there in Alabama here this year too. And every night, Tuesday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can tune in to see how everyone's looking over at the Senior Bowl, whether you're a college fan interested, an NFL fan looking for the draft, and anything in between. It's Locked On NFL Draft, one of the cooler things that we do here at Locked On with all the access they give us over at the Senior Bowl. Let's continue to talk more here on Big Ten basketball from the weekend. But first, the latest update we have from Joe Lunardi. It's from Saturday night. So after the games from Saturday had been played, an update made, at least not in the full 68 bracket, but in the top 4 seeds and then on the bubble, which has plenty of Big Ten representation. So just a quick update. The Big Ten has Purdue at the top seed. Indiana and Rutgers are listed at 5 seeds. Those are the only 3 teams in the top 5 in seeding now. On the bubble, more importantly, Maryland is up to the next 4 in. Wisconsin is now the 2nd team out. Penn State, the 3rd team out, and Ohio State, the 6th team out. Again, Wisconsin drops to 2nd team out, Ohio State, the 6th team out after they both lose on Saturday night. Also, Penn State with 3rd team out means that Big Ten's down to just 8 teams in Joe Lunardi's latest projections. The ACC has 8 teams in it currently right now as it's catching up. I think things are starting to separate naturally. I think trying to get 11, 12 teams in the Big Ten was all in the championship was always going to get, I think, derailed at some point. But I think at the moment you're looking at a point where 8 teams currently in is probably the minimum that the Big Ten can think about. 9 or 10 is probably more realistic, but I think we are going to see some separation within the what are now 4 teams that are really firmly on the bubble, and maybe one of those other teams that's a little bit safer takes a couple losses and falls back down near that bubble area too. But that's the latest update from bracketology. So with that, let's go into what we saw elsewhere in the Big Ten over the weekend. Iowa knocks off Rutgers in a game between a couple of teams that are safely in the tournament, at least for now. The offense crazy in this game. Iowa drops 93 points, top offense in the Big Ten in the Hawkeyes. It has been for a while. First team to score 80 on Rutgers all season, which was an impressive stat just from the Rutgers side that I didn't know, but also Iowa just insanely good. Iowa had a bigger rotation this game. We talked before about how the Hawkeyes can't really afford to have a 6-man rotation like they did in their last loss. This time they get themselves 8 players with double-digit minutes, and you get back Patrick McCaffrey and get him on to the floor again. Connor McCaffrey, I believe. Yeah, he was 3 for 3 from 3 in 13 minutes. And now I'm doubting myself on the McCaffrey names too. Shoot. All right. Well, I'll make sure I'm getting that one right, of course. People who know, of course, are yelling me, I know, for right now, and I should know which one it is. I do know which one it is. It's just getting away from me in my head. But we'll get that in a second. Anyway, Penn State, Iowa, just bigger rotation was good. Again, that team cannot do it with only 6 guys, but at the same time, it was, as I mentioned before, 6 really good players. So if they get a couple more guys going like they did here in this game, that's what you're going to get. An Iowa team that's able to really drop a bomb with 45 and 48 in the 2 halves against Rutgers. A really, really good effort for both of them. Patrick McCaffrey. Okay. Patrick McCaffrey, the one who came back from injury and went 3 for 3 from 3 for 9 points in 13 minutes. He looked good. Iowa just all around looked outstanding. And this team against Rutgers really showed up. So a helper for Iowa. Rutgers takes a hit with the loss. I still think if these 2 teams play on a neutral court, I'm leaning Rutgers. I think Iowa had a really good game. I think Iowa could beat Rutgers on a neutral court again, no doubt about it. But it's just, if I'm picking a team, I'm still a little bit more confident in what Rutgers is able to do game in and game out, as opposed to what I've seen from Iowa as of late. But a really, really good game from Iowa. And hopefully getting McCaffrey back and having the 2 McCaffreys here now can help them get some more stability in that rotation because they were really short-staffed for a little bit there. Penn State blew out Michigan. This game, the only real thing that I'm taking away from it is I'm out on the Wolverines. I tried to be hopeful, and I wanted to have the pipe dream of being on Selection Sunday, thinking that there were 12 teams involved in the tournament selection. Not 12 teams that would make it, but at least 12 teams we were talking about. Michigan's just not going to be one of those teams, it looks like. Jet Howard came back and was good, and Michigan still had no shot throughout pretty much all of this one. Penn State's an experienced team. We've talked about this a lot already. They're like a litmus test in the Big Ten for everyone else, the way that I look at the Nittany Lions. They're experienced and not going to just beat themselves badly in any area of the game. And if you're playing poorly in any area of the game, they're a team that's good enough to be able to expose it, and they're going to beat you if you don't play well. And Michigan did not play well in this one. You cannot have those kind of games at this point if you're Michigan. Hunter Dickinson had 6 points in 23 minutes. That's a guy who just can't take nights off. Not when you've got Zach Edey doing what he's doing and Trace Jackson Davis heating up for Indiana. Hunter Dickinson's supposed to be that tier. And that tier does not just come out and only put up 6 points in a game. Penn State put pressure on him, put the focus defensively on him. But there's a point where it's like, okay, you got to be the superstar, man. Like, we know it's there. Just get out there and, I don't know, be more aggressive. I don't know what ends up having to happen, but you have to, if you're Juwan Howard, see 6 points from Hunter Dickinson and be like, oh, okay, wake up call. Something needs to change. That's not a guy that only scores 6 points in any game, no matter if they're double teaming him the entire way. So just a lot to look at and try to figure out for Michigan. I have no idea what it is that is so wrong with them right now and makes them so unable to get themselves back into the tournament conversation. But they're falling apart at the moment. And I'm not confident in just about anything if I'm a Wolverines fan. Only other result I wanted to talk about, Maryland blew out Nebraska. It was just a really good offensive performance and team performance by the Terrapins. 5 different players in double digits in scoring. Maryland just took care of business, as Northwestern did, something we talked off at the end of the week last week. Minnesota and Nebraska are the teams that you want to be able to beat when you're playing them in the Big Ten. I guess Michigan's getting onto that list too, but those are the two that are at the real bottom. And again, Northwestern and Maryland get the job done as a couple of bubble teams who needed wins, and they get them. We'll finish up here in just a minute with Big Ten news. Let's get to it first, though. The schedule from around the Big Ten. Already talked about all these games, but again, just a recap from Sunday in Big Ten basketball. Michigan State falls to Purdue 77-61. The home team wins all 3 Big Ten games. Penn State over Michigan 83-61, and Iowa over Rutgers 93-82. Also back on Friday, we mentioned the number 1 versus number 2 matchup on the mats. Number 1 Penn State wrestling defeated number 2 Iowa. Final score 23-12. Good match between those two, but Penn State gets the better of them. Only matchups on the Big Ten calendar for today. No basketball on the men's side. 1 women's game, Penn State versus Maryland. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then in women's gymnastics, Rutgers against Penn State. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Both those matchups you can find on Big Ten Network if you're able to get it. We do have recruiting news. Recruits coming from around the country to the Big Ten. 1 transfer to tell you about, too. From within the Big Ten, Austin Kusher has transferred from Ohio State to Iowa. A wide receiver in the 2018 class has played in just 3 games in his Ohio State career. He'll hopefully try to find some more time with Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. It's hard to play a wide receiver at Ohio State, so I'd say don't just write him off just yet. We'll see what ends up happening once he gets into that system and shows what he can do. In other recruiting news, we do have other big names committing to Big Ten schools. I wanted to mention from last week, Michigan added a 2024 4-star defensive lineman, Ted Hammond, out of Cincinnati. Big get for the Wolverines. Also, over the weekend, 3-star 2023 wide receivers, Derek Rogers and Armad Branch, both committed to Purdue. And also 3-star defensive lineman Sua Lefotu committed to Nebraska out of California. He had a bunch of Pac-12 offers, Arizona State, Colorado, Washington. Also had Big Ten offers, Indiana and Michigan State, but Nebraska beats them all out. And finally, 4-star 2024 wide receiver Grant Steck has committed to Wisconsin, wide receiver / tight end, but he's 6'6", 220. big guy with a bunch of other offers from pretty much all around the Big Ten: Illinois, Iowa, Michigan State, Minnesota, Penn State, Purdue, Rutgers, and also other offers like a Tennessee, a team that Wisconsin's able to beat out for that tight end out of Illinois. That's a look at recruiting and the schedule from around the Big Ten. That's a wrap on Locked On Big Ten for the day. I'm Nate Dickinson. A reminder that once you're done here with our program, for your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton take you throughout the college basketball landscape to get you everything that you need to know with big-time experts, analysis, coaches, and players from the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts too. Also, be sure, of course, to subscribe into this show, Locked On Big Ten, available every weekday on YouTube and on wherever you get your podcasts. Also on Twitter, at Locked On Big Ten for all of them. 10 at the end when you're typing it out, not TEN. I'm Nate Dickinson with Locked On. We'll be back next time here with more.